The Drakenheim Orphanage stood at the edge of the Crimson Cliffs, a towering structure of ancient stone that had sheltered dragonlings for over 3 centuries. Its halls were vast and cold, designed for creatures who could generate their own warmth through internal fire. But that was before the Plague of Embers, before young dragons began hatching without their ancestral flames. Luna pressed her scaled snout against the frosted window, watching her breath crystallize in the bitter mountain air. At barely 7 winters old, she was among the oldest of the flameless generation. Her emerald scales, which should have shimmered with internal heat, remained dull and cold. Around her 23 other young dragons huddled together in a desperate attempt to share body warmth that none of them possessed. "Another one's gone," whispered Rix, a smaller copper-scaled dragonling who had arrived just last month. He gestured with a trembling wing toward an empty nest in the corner. Kelvin didn't wake up this morning. Too cold. Luna's heart, the one organ that still burned, though weakly ached with familiar grief. They'd lost 11 younglings to the cold since winter began. The orphanages, caretakers, ancient dragons who still possessed their flames, tried their best. They breathed fire into the stone walls, heated the floors, and kept the younglings near the warmth. But there were too many orphans and too few caretakers. The old ways simply weren't enough. That's when Cameron arrived. The human engineer climbed down from his automated transport vehicle, carrying cases of equipment that looked impossibly complex. He was lean and tall by human standards, with dark hair perpetually disheveled and eyes that seemed to analyze everything they touched. Most dragons regarded humans with polite indifference, the small, clever mammals who built their strange machines and sometimes traded with the great Wyams of the Southern Territories. But the orphanage's headmistress, Matriarch Valdris, had exhausted all draconic solutions. In desperation, she had reached out to the human territories, hoping their peculiar talent for engineering might offer an answer. "You want me to do what?" Cameron asked, staring up at the massive stone structure. His breath formed clouds in the freezing air. "Save them," Valdris said simply, her ancient golden eyes reflecting centuries of wisdom and current desperation. "We've tried everything within our traditions. Dragon fire, heated stones, thermal chambers. Nothing distributes heat efficiently enough. We're losing younglings every week." Cameron walked through the orphanage, his portable thermal scanner revealing what the dragons couldn't perceive: massive heat loss through the ancient walls, cold air infiltration from countless cracks, and zero insulation in structures built for creatures who carried furnaces within their chests. He knelt beside Luna's sleeping area, watching her shiver despite the pile of blankets. "This is just thermodynamics," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "It's not magic or mystery. It's just physics, and physics I can fix." Over the next 3 weeks, Cameron transformed the orphanage. He worked 18-hour days, often sleeping in his transport vehicle, declining the warm quarters Valdris offered. Luna watched, fascinated, as he installed something he called a central heating system. He ran pipes through the walls, connected them to a boiler he'd built himself, and pumped hot water throughout the structure. He sealed cracks with expanding foam, installed double-paned windows, and added what he called insulation within the walls. The dragons watched with skepticism. How could metal pipes and strange materials accomplish what dragonfire could not? Luna became Cameron's unofficial assistant. Her small size allowed her to squeeze into spaces he couldn't reach, holding wires and pipes while he worked. Despite their species differences, they communicated easily. Cameron explained his work in simple terms, and Luna absorbed everything with the quick intelligence characteristic of her kind. "Why are you doing this?" Luna asked one evening as Cameron calibrated the thermostat. "You're just a human. We're not your responsibility." Cameron paused, his wrench hovering over a pipe fitting. "When I was 8, my little sister got hypothermia during a winter storm. Our heating failed, and I couldn't fix it. I was too young, didn't know how. She survived, but I never forgot feeling helpless." He tightened the fitting with precise movements. "I became an engineer so I'd never feel that way again. So I could fix things, protect people." He glanced at Luna. "Species doesn't really matter when someone's cold and needs help." On the first day of spring, Cameron fired up his system. Warm air began flowing through carefully designed vents. The temperature in the sleeping quarters rose steadily, stabilizing at a comfortable level. For the first time in months, the young dragons stopped shivering. Luna spread her wings, still small, still developing, and felt genuine warmth radiating from the walls, the floors, even the air itself. Around her, dragonlings stirred from their huddled masses, separating for the first time, exploring spaces they'd avoided because of the cold. Rix actually laughed, a sound Luna hadn't heard since his arrival. But Cameron wasn't finished. He installed solar panels on the sun-facing walls, ensuring the system would run continuously. He trained 2 young adult dragons, flameless like the younglings, but old enough to work in maintaining the equipment. He left detailed manuals, spare parts, and even his personal communication code in case something breaks. On his last day, Luna found him performing final checks on the boiler. "You're really leaving?" she asked, though she'd known this moment would come. "The system's solid. It'll last years with proper maintenance." Cameron smiled, closing the access panel. "Besides, there's an orphanage in the Western Territories Volf pups whose dens collapsed. They need shelter engineering. After that, a colony of avian refugees needs water reclamation systems." He shouldered his tool bag. "Lots of work out there." Luna touched her snout to his hand, the traditional dragon gesture of deepest respect. "You didn't just build a heating system, you gave us hope. You showed us that solutions exist beyond our own traditions." As Cameron's vehicle disappeared down the mountain path, Matriarch Valdris stood beside Luna. "Remarkable creatures. Humans," the old dragon mused. "They don't breathe fire, they aren't particularly strong, and they live such brief lives. Yet they build, they solve, they help." She looked down at Luna. "That human probably saved more dragon lives in 3 weeks than my flames did in 3 months." Luna watched until the transport vanished from sight. Warmth radiated from the stones beneath her feet, steady, reliable, beautiful warmth generated by human ingenuity rather than dragonfire. The orphanage would remember Cameron not as a hero or savior, but as something perhaps more important, a friend who saw a problem and fixed it simply because it needed fixing. In the years that followed, young Luna would grow strong and wise, her emerald scales eventually developing a radiant sheen. She would become an ambassador between dragons and humans, championing cooperation and shared knowledge, but she would always remember the human engineer who taught her that warmth comes in many forms, and the strongest fires aren't always the ones you're born with, sometimes they're the ones you build together.